Well, good afternoon and welcome to the November 4th. It is November 4th, right? Yeah, meeting of the Finance Committee. If you are joining us online, if you would use the raised hand feature, if you would like to speak, and Jennifer will give you the ability to speak when we ask for public comment. And if you're here in the meeting room, if you would make sure that you've turned your personal devices to manners mode. If you approach the podium to give a staff report or to make public comment, please make sure to identify yourself for the record. And with that, we have a large agenda today, so we'll start with the first item.
Number 7, ordinance third reading, authorizing the contractor licensing board to license and otherwise regulate portable fire extinguisher, hose station equipment, and hood system cleaning and maintenance professionals, making conforming amendments and repealing obsolete provisions of the municipal code of the city of Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Staff report, please.
There you go. Bob Mason with the Cheyenne Fire Department. First of all, I would just, since we have two of the members that voted no on this ordinance change at the last council meeting or both on the committee, I would like to solicit any clarifications they may desire on what we're trying to do here today through this ordinance change.
Are there any questions from committee? No, I don't believe there are. Thank you, Mr. Mason.
Okay, well, there seems to be some misunderstanding in what we're trying to do with this ordinance change. I would kind of like to start at the beginning. Currently we have two ordinances that license two separate fire licenses through the city clerk's office. The hood cleaning license and the fire extinguisher service licenses. Those are issued through the city clerk's office. However, there are enforcement mechanisms through those ordinances that try to regulate those licenses. In each license, it highlights different requirements for those licenses to be met, trying to regulate those licenses through the city business license process. I don't believe that's the case with most other business licenses. I don't think a business license is intended as a regulatory, to be regulatory in nature. The city clerk will speak to that also, and to bring that to light. And there's no enforcement mechanism in place with the city clerk's office. As I've spoken to before, last year we had a complaint about a fire extinguisher service contractor in the city. He brought that to myself. He brought that to the chief building official. We instructed him he needed to file that complaint with the city clerk's office. He did so. The city clerk, myself, chief building official, the city attorney, we did meet on that. We did meet on that complaint. There was really a lot of question about what the enforcement mechanism was to handle that complaint through the city clerk's office, because really there is no enforcement mechanism in place like there is on the contractor licensing board. Fortunately, myself getting involved and talking with the contractors involved, we were able to get that issue resolved without it having to be taken further by the city clerk or through the city attorney's office. So that's why I was already intending to revamp all the fire licenses in the contractor licensing board, and knowing that these licenses were in the city clerk's office, I already had the intent to fold those into to the contractor licensing board fire rules, which we did. Those have not yet been approved yet. However, we're hoping that these licenses will be approved to be moved from the city clerk's office to the contractor licensing board, because there is an enforcement mechanism via the contractor licensing board. That mechanism is rather the complaint. I get a lot of complaints. The chief building official he gets complaints. However, once those complaints come to us, we direct that a complaint has to be filed directly with the contractor licensing board. And the contractor licensing board at that time will initiate an investigation. And during that process, myself and the chief building official we will try to insert ourselves into that process as well and try to get this resolved short of the contractor licensing board having to make a decision. However, if that's not possible, the contractor licensing board will take all the evidence that's gathered through that and render a decision whether they suspend a license, they revoke a license, or there's no action at all. At least there's an enforcement mechanism in place. And another issue I want to talk to is these are life safety system contractors getting licenses through the city clerk's office. All the other life safety contractors get their licensing through the contractor licensing board, which it's my opinion that that's where those belong, especially since there's no enforcement mechanism.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. I believe that Clerk Jones would like to say something.
Madam Chair, Chris Jones, City Clerk. I agree with a lot of what Mr. Mason said. I guess the biggest concern that we have in the clerk's office on this particular one, these two licenses per se, is that when we did get the complaint, even though it's a violation of city code, it's very hard for me to get anybody to help enforce any violations. And we would need the fire department's excuse me, expertise as far as whether it really is a violation, et cetera. That's why I had asked for the code enforcement officer so that we could blanketly try to help some of these. But it is the clerk's office opinion that this would belong in the contractor's board due to the nature of these two types of licenses. They are different from other ones that we do license through the clerk's office. So, and I'd stand for any questions that you may have for me.
Thank you. Any questions from committee? Okay. Or do we have any public comment? Doesn't appear so. So I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve on third and final reading.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Cook, a second from a motion from Councilman White, a second from Councilman Cook to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Okay, this item will move forward with recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Number 18D, professional services agreement between the City of Cheyenne, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and Kimley Horn and Associates Incorporated for an update of the MPO Long Range Metropolitan Transportation Plan.
Okay, staff report, please.
Yes, I'm Christopher Yaney. I'm the MPO director. And this is a contract that we're having with Kimley Horn. We actually put this out for a letter of interest, and we had 4 consultants actually send in their interest for this contract. MPO has to do a long-range transportation plan every 5 years. And we are now at that point, we have to do another update to this long-range transportation plan. This contract will not exceed the $199,841.82 to complete the project. This should take us about 1 year to complete. There is a travel demand model that Kimley Horn also has a contract with, and they're updating that right now. And it will be a part of the update of the long-range transportation plan, as well as they'll be looking at our future land use map as well.
Okay, are there any questions from committee? Councilman White.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. Sir, can you, just for the record, can you clarify what funding stream this $199,841 will be coming from?
This, Madam Chair, through you, this funding stream actually comes out of the MPO planning budget. And we do have the funding available to cover this.
Thank you. Appreciate the clarification. Just wanted to get that on the record.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from committee? I did have a question. I noticed that it does not address, at least I couldn't find it, rail transportation. And I know that that's been a big topic. Is that not being something that's being considered under this study?
This project will be his long-range transportation plan for the roadway network that we actually have. We have a passenger rail site selection project right now, and we're addressing that. And then once we have that addressed, then we'll be looking at reaching out to Front Range, passenger rail, and possibly having another planning project to tie in that organization with long-range nationwide rail system.
Okay. And so I'm guessing that that might fall under things like transit system and regional transit system recommendations.
Yes, and it's Front Range Passenger Rail, they won't get hopefully they'll get their funding in 2026. And when you look at Amtrak and what they're trying to propose for new existing routes, trying to bring them back, we're going to probably be in the next 5-year program. So if we don't get one soon, then those passenger rails will be included into the next long-range transportation plan.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee? Yes, Councilman Johnson.
Just one. So looking at the item that you have, you said that there was 4 bids put in on this and Kimley Horn was the one awarded. I don't see where it has, typically we see something from our purchasing department. Does the MPO work outside of purchasing that we wouldn't see who the other bid applicants were?
I put in a memo to list all the project or the companies. It was Kimley Horn, Stantec Consulting Service, Philsburg, Holt and Ullvig, and JR Engineering.
Councilman Johnson, any other questions? I think usually we're used to seeing the dollar amount that each one of those bid. And so that's why there was the question.
Well, I think they usually are a closed bid, and we only open up the winning or selected firm for bids.
How do you know if you only open the winning one? Just saying.
TJ Bartlebort, purchasing manager, chair through you to Councilman Johnson and the group. The procurement was conducted through the purchasing office. Formal letters of interest was published on the city's OpenGov procurement portal. As a part of that, their only submission was letters of interest only, no fee proposals. The MPO panel did a review of all the proposals, and then once they made their selection, they reached out to Kimley Horn to prepare a fee proposal for consideration. So that's how we got to where we are today.
Great. Thank you for that explanation. Any other questions from committee? Any public comment? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve in an amount not to exceed $199,841.32, or excuse me, 82 cents.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman White, a second by Councilman Cook. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
This item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Number 18F, memorandum of understanding between the city of Cheyenne and the National Forest Foundation to establish roles and responsibilities as a subrecipient of the U.S. Endowment for Forestry and Communities Grant.
Staff report, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of council. I'm Renee Smith, Economic Resource Administrator. Before you is an MOU. Last month, I brought before you a grant that we received for the watershed and forest field management. It was the IFNF grant through the U.S. Endowment for Forestry and Communities. As part of that grant, we're working with partners, the National Forest Foundation. So this MOU is our agreement with them for them to, basically they are hiring a project manager to work with all of the agencies involved. It took some of the pressure off the city to do this. So this is an agreement for $110,000 over the course of 2 years. It will fund a portion of a project manager hired through the NFF, and then also just some travel and some collaboration work.
Are there any questions from committee? Will there be any expense to the city that is not covered by the grant that we received?
No,
Thank
there
you.
will not.
Okay. Any other questions? Any public comment? Hearing none or seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve an amount of $110,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman White, a second by Councilman Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Okay, this item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Number 18G, memorandum of understanding between the city of Cheyenne and the World Resources Institute to establish roles and responsibilities as a subrecipient of the U.S. Endowment for Forestry and Communities grant.
Staff report, please.
Good afternoon again, Renee Smith, Economic Resource Administrator. This is the second MOU as the secondary partner with this grant project that we're working on. World Resources Institute is the kind of the financial guru who will be helping with the investigative work for the SRF if we can use that to fund forest fuel management. So this is an agreement for $45,000 for us to help them supplement some of those costs, the travel and meeting expenses.
Any questions from committee? Okay, any public comment? Hearing or seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve an amount of $45,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman White and a second from Councilman Cook and Johnson to second it. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? This item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Number 18H, agreement between the city of Cheyenne and Safe Harbor to provide a safe and secure environment to families who have been affected by abuse from the general fund.
Staff report, please.
Vicky Nemechek, Public Works. This is a contract with Safe Harbor for $20,000. We have a representative available here to provide information and respond to questions.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Councilman, I do have some information. Can I approach and pass it to you?
Thank you.
Every year I summarize where your funds went. And we're a year.
Can you identify
Oh,
yourself?
yeah, thank you. Lynn Story-Heiler, Director of Safe Harbor at Children's Justice Center. So we're always a year behind. So I'm reporting to this on 2023 statistics. So in 2023, I conducted 53 interviews for the Cheyenne Police Department. Nationally, they're billed out about $350 an interview, and that's for the life of the case. So when I talk about the life of the case, I do an interview, say in 2023, it may not go to court for several years, if any, but I am there for the life of that case, whatever that may mean. So the city I used their money, $18,550 for forensic interviews. And then you can see that we did other things with the dollars. I sent one detective to a big national conference, the Dallas Crimes Against Children Conference, which is a premier conference on child abuse and neglect. Used about $2,000 for that. There was some case consultation, some other kinds of things. So in the end, I spent your $20,000. I actually was over. It was $20,706.74. Of your money was spent very wisely on very beneficial things that help kids in our community be safe. And I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from committee? Okay. Any public comment? Okay, hearing or seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve an amount not to exceed $20,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman White, a second from Councilman Cook. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, I'll just make one comment that very much appreciate the important work and partnership that we have with Safe Harbor.
I would echo that. Any other comments from committee? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, this item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Number 18I, agreement between the city of Cheyenne and the Cheyenne Housing Authority to provide supportive senior services from the general fund.
Okay, staff report.
Vicky Nemechek, Public Works. This is a contract with Cheyenne Housing Authority for $100,000, and I do have a representative available to give information and respond to questions.
Great, thank you. Hi, Erin.
Hi. Erin LeBlanc, Director of Laramie County Senior Services. Just want to thank you for last year we came to you with an increase and that was provided to us. We've come again for that same dollar amount. Laramie County Senior Services provide services primarily to those 60 and over in our community in way of support services as well as a nutrition program. And so these funds go to help just support and offset our costs and help to meet our match for federal state programs.
Any questions? Councilman Johnson?
Yes, so principally, when we just had the one facility across the street here, because seeing that you're offering transportation, are you now going to have a hybrid where some of your services are done here and then once the new facility comes online, that we will probably see some transportation going back and forth between the two facilities? Do you see a future increase because of that transportation and services now within two facilities instead of just the one?
Yes, Madam Chair, through you. So we currently have 3 satellite sites that we provide nutrition to, and one is over where the new senior center is being built. It's our Fox Crest location. And then we have 2 up a little bit further north inside Indian Hills Manor, which is on Story Boulevard, and Stanfield Manor in Shoshone, on Shoshone. So this then, the process will be that this will then turn into a satellite meal site. So all that will be offered here at this location will be nutrition. And so we will cook the meals at the new senior center and transport them here. That's all services that are going to be there. And so, and the transportation pieces, we're looking to get a bus route reinstated by the new senior center to be able to provide services for those to be able to access us.
Any other questions from committee? Any public comments? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve in an amount not to exceed $100,000.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman White and a second from Councilman Cook. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item.
Number 18J, agreement between the City of Cheyenne and the Volunteers of America Northern Rockies Alcohol Receiving Center to provide alcohol and drug detoxification services from the general fund.
Staff report, please.
Vicky Nemechek, Public Works. This is a contract with Volunteers of America Northern Rockies Alcohol Receiving Center in the amount of $136,875. And we do have representatives here available to give information and respond to questions.
Thank you. Heidi McNeil, VP of Residential Services in the Southern Region. I do oversee the Social Detox, or ARC, here in Cheyenne. Just wanted to take the time to speak to the fiscal year 24 numbers of the clients we were able to serve with the prior funding. And the funding is in the same amount as we did receive in fiscal year 24. We were able to provide services to 138 distinct clients. Some of those were repeats, so they did come back. So there were 189 clients served in these episodes. 420 days of services provided in overnights, not including if they discharged midday. We were able to partner with many of our community providers, such as the police department, legal, DOC, CRMC, recovery services like Recover Wyoming, Camilla Shelter. Each of those that do have numbers. We also have those that are self-referred, 79 of our clients that we served, and CPD more specifically, 18 of those clients, DOC and legals like attorneys were a total of 25. CRMC and medical providers were 10 of those. Recovery services and social services within our community were 6 of those. Camilla was 4. And I know that the last time that I came and spoke, we were asked, I was asked if anybody outside of Laramie County was served. And out of those numbers, only 1 was served out of Gillette. But we've also been able to, a third of those clients were clients that we were able to refer to our residential treatment for substance use. And an additional fourth of those clients that we served were also set up with outpatient services and some of our other sistering associations like our subacute crisis services.
Great, thank you for that explanation. Any questions from committee? Councilman Johnson.
So on Appendix A then, in the future, are you guys going to add Campbell County then, since that was your service was to Gillette, since Campbell County is not listed, just Platte, Goshen, Laramie? and
It was
Allen?
a Campbell County walk-in clinic that had partnered with our Gillette outpatient services that were provided by VOA.
Any other questions from committee? Any public comment? Hearing or seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve in an amount not to exceed $136,875.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman White, a second from Councilman Cook. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Number 18K, telecommunications right-of-way license and use agreement between the city of Cheyenne and Viero Fiber Networks LLC for the installation and operation of facilities, revenue to the city.
Staff report, Mr. Klon.
Madam Chair, members of the council, good afternoon. Doug Klon, Construction Manager. Before you and for your consideration today is the right-of-way use agreement and license for Viero Fiber Networks. This is 100% private project, doesn't involve any city funds. Viera wants to bring a long-haul dark fiber in from the Archer complex, and it will come down through the city's Venture Drive, Camp Stool, and Progress Circle to do some interconnectivity for their system there. This is one of the projects that is based on linear feet, and the city will receive compensation for use in our right-of-way. And this project consists of approximately 13,500 feet of fiber. Staff has reviewed this contract, and it's our recommendation that we move forward with this and approve it. Additionally, Viera has already completed their engineering plan review. It's been reviewed and it's ready to be approved as soon as this agreement is in place. And they're ready to move forward with the right-of-way permit as well. I'll stand for questions. And in addition, Mr. Ron Christensen is online from Viera if you have questions directly for him.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Klon? I guess one of the questions I have is, so we're looking at about $12,000 in revenue for the city each year based on that 75 cents per linear foot at 15,000 feet, you said?
Madam Chair, yes, approximately. I
Okay.
haven't done the exact math,
Okay.
and these are ballpark numbers, but that would be pretty close.
But revenue
Yes.
positive, so great. Any public comment? Okay, hearing or seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Cook and a second from Councilman White. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Number 18L, agreement for the purchase, sale, and exchange of lands between the city of Cheyenne and Black Hills Energy for exchange of real property, 0.77 acres from the city to Black Hills Energy and 0.85 acres from Black Hills Energy to the city, both having appraised values of $275,000 and $445,000 respectively. Properties generally located at 108 West 18th Street and the 1300 block of West 24th Street from 2017 specific purpose option tax.
I would have the committee note that we do have a substitute on this item. Staff report, please.
And Chair, members of committee, Charles Bloom, Planning Development Director. Just would like to note that there was an error in the address that was provided with the entitlement. It incorrectly stated 108 West 18th Street, where indeed it is actually 800 block of West 18th Street. We identified that that is an address error in our GIS, and that is actually presently being corrected right now. So that is what is corrected in that substitute. But this essentially is a land trade for two parcels of land as shown on the screen here. Presently, the city owns this triangular piece of property on 24th Street, which is located across from Black Hills Energy's main office, just to the west of the Union Pacific Railroad tracks behind the Board of Public Utilities. And we're trading that land for this half block on 18th between Snyder and Reed Avenue. This has historically been used by Black Hills Energy for a storage yard. It is actually essentially a terraced lot where you have two flat areas where it's flatter on the Snyder Street side, elevated, and then it's a level on top as well. This is envisioned as being a developable area by the city that could help support the Reed Rail Initiative, whether it be parking for nearby businesses or it be reserved for other types of development in the future. We did have appraisals that were pulled together on these properties, and there is a difference in the valuation. At closing, the city would end up trading their property plus paying $170,000, which is the difference between the two land values. Funding for this would come out of the Reed Rail 6 penny fund. I'm open for any questions that you may have. And I would note that Black Hills Energy is aware of this meeting today, and they were not able to send a representative today, but they are comfortable in this moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from committee? I have one question. What does that leave our remaining balance in the 2017 spot tax for Reed Avenue project?
Chair, members of the committee, that is a number that we will have to obtain. There's quite a bit still in there, but we will have that information to you all before the meeting of the governing body on Monday.
That'd be great. Thank you. Any other questions from committee? Any public comment? Yes, Councilman Laybourne.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Obviously, this is a really good opportunity for us to acquire property that, excuse me, will be necessary for the corridor. But I'm curious what sort of environmental review has occurred on that property. I know that it's been used for a variety of purposes, and I'm speaking of the Black Hills property there on 18th Street. So has that been analyzed?
Chair, members of the committee, to answer that question, yes, we have included that in our current brownfield assessment grant. They have performed a phase 1 environmental on that property, and that phase 1 expires in November 27. Through that process, they did note that there was an area where there was a leaking transformer, that they would need to have some of the soil excavated that area around that transformer. It's a small area. They did note that on the property, there is a small accessory structure that is there that probably has an asbestos based material in there for insulation, and that would have to be remediated if demolished, which isn't that uncommon. And then they also noted that there was once a fuel storage tank on that land that had a release in the past, but they went through a cleanup with the Wyoming Department of Environmental Quality and had the release from that fuel tank cleaned up. We do intend to continue with our funding of our brownfields assessment grants to continue to assess this property and see if any additional cleanup would be warranted.
Are there any questions from committee?
Not a question, but a comment.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I appreciate the question being raised. That's obviously something, Mr. Bloom, that I hope staff will definitely stay on top of in the future. But yeah, as with Mr. Laybourne's comments, yeah, that was something I was curious about as well. So it's just something definitely for staff to keep an eye on moving forward.
Councilman Johnson.
With what Councilman Laybourne brought up, could that to be taken, since if we're gonna have to remediate that property, could that amount be taken off of the $170,000 that was in addition for the land swap?
And Chair, members of the committee, any negotiations could be made regarding the land price. At this time, we've just been relying on the appraisals that had come in and the location of this one being more desirable. Again, that 20,000 gallon diesel leak that had occurred on that storage tank, that did go through the DEQ. And it did indicate it was listed as resolved in April of 2000. And there were phase 2 investigations that had occurred around that same time that indicated that contamination was not identified as part of that release. The minor asbestos issues that come with the accessory building, those are ones that I would believe are common with the purchase of older buildings, and they usually are accounted for in appraisal values. This is an accessory building. If so desired, we could go back to Black Hills Energy to see if they wanted to modify the purchase price. If that is the council's desire, we would have to start over on a new phase 1 EA analysis, because the present one expires in November. It's November 25th of this month.
Councilman Johnson?
Just to follow up, for the property that we're surrendering over to them on 24th Street, did it have any DEQ things that red flagged for them? So it was pretty much an equal trade besides the $170 or $170,000 that, you know, I know we ask about the one that we're getting, but the one that we're giving to them, did it have the DEQ stuff on it as well?
Chair, members of the committee, they did have their own environmental assessment that was done on that site. I will follow up with them as to whether or not there was any contamination that was identified. I do not believe that there was any, but I can definitely get that information prior to the governing body meeting on Monday.
Mr. Bloom, would you also be able to provide with us an estimate of what it would cost to mitigate these issues on that property, and as well as a copy of the appraisals so that we can see if that asbestos ridden building was accounted for in the appraisals?
Chair, members of the committee, I can get you copies of the appraisals that we have. A solid estimate will not be available because that would have to come after a phase 2 environmental analysis, and then the brownfield alternatives, or ABCA document, which is analysis of brownfield cleanup alternatives. Those would take a little bit more time to prepare. But if that's a desire the council would like to go, we can delay this to a later date.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee? Any public comment? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve in an amount not to exceed $170,000.
We have a motion from Councilman White, a second from Councilman Johnson. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, I move to amend by substitute memo dated November 4th, 2024.
Okay, we have an amendment before us to, for the substitute. Any discussion on the substitute? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, this item will be substituted. I will take a motion on the main item, amended item. A vote. Sorry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay, this item will move forward with a recommendation to approve the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Before we go into the next item, I have to return to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Johnson. Okay, next item.
Number 19A, contract modification number 2 to contract number 7480 between the city of Cheyenne and Viola ES Technical Solutions for hazardous waste disposal services through January 31st, 2026 from the Solid Waste Fund.
Okay, staff report, please.
Vicky Nemechek, Public Works. This is a contract with Viola Technical Solutions, they are going to continue to take our household hazardous waste. These are the items that we collect in the household hazardous waste facility. Basically, the things that you find in your garage, used oil, chemicals in bottles, spray bottles, those kinds of things. We are extending this for an additional 24 months. There is a Scribner's error, which I have noted with the city attorney. My bad, but it should be 2027. It should be the modification will extend the professional services agreement until January 31st, 2027. The modification number 1 extended the contract to January 31st of 2025.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from committee? The only question I have, Director Nemechek, are the charges that we charge for these items that we collect through our collection process in line with what we're being charged?
We do not charge for accepting household hazardous waste except from commercial entities, and we charge the cost plus 10%.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Any public comment? Hearing or seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve in an amount not to exceed $200,000.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Cook, a second from Councilman White. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. This item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Number 19B, contract modification number 2 to contract number 7462 between the City of Cheyenne and Onsite Electronics Recycling LLC, doing business as IT Refresh for electronics recycling services through January 31st, 2026 from the Solid Waste Fund.
Okay, staff report.
Vicky Nemechek, Public Works. Again, this is a contract with for electronic recycling services with Onsite Electronics. It is to extend the contract for an additional 24 months at a not to exceed price of $200,000. Again, we have the same Scribner's error. We extended the contract last time, modification 1, what took it through January 31st of 2025. This should be January 31st of 2027.
There are several paragraphs throughout this agreement that are not legible. It just, I think, was a bad copy that was copied. Are we able to get a good copy before Monday?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, any questions from committee? Okay, any public comment? Hearing or seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve in an amount not to exceed $200,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Cook, a second from Councilman White. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, this item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item, please.
Number 20B, consideration of bid number E-5-25 for mobile clam shell style laptops and docking stations for the IT division from 2019 to 2022 and 2023 to 2026, optional 1% sales tax fund.
Okay, staff report.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. TJ Bartlebort, Purchasing Manager. This is a bid consideration of bid E-525, which was for clamshell style laptops and docking stations. This was a request from the IT department for just a network-wide refresh of the devices that city employees use for their computers. So just time for an upgrade. 4 bidders submitted. We did a submittal on the cost per computer and then just divided it out by available budget. They were authorized $80,000 for the capital equipment fund. So that'll get us 76 computers without exceeding that budget. So looking for approval for the bid submitted from Clear Connect for $78,997.44. I'm available for questions if you have them.
Are there any questions from committee? My question is, I'm guessing that these will be distributed amongst different agent departments in the city as needed for replacement.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, any public comment? Hearing or seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the bid from Clear Connect in an amount not to exceed $78,997.44.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? We have a motion from Councilman Cook, a second from Councilman White. All in favor, say aye. Okay, this item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. We also have another item that has been added, so.
So we have other business and then we have other items for the agenda. So we had another item at the council meeting, just to be clear, and then we had another item added on Friday.
Okay, so if you'll read the next item that we've added.
Other business A, contract modification number 1 to contract number 8057 between the City of Cheyenne and Orin Environmental Incorporated for additional abatement work for the Cheyenne Railcar Project bid package number 1, asbestos and lead paint abatement project from 2021 specific purpose option tax fund, general fund reserves, and EDA grant 0579-06167.
Staff report, please.
Good afternoon, Council, Madam Councilwoman. Paul Bellotti, Project Manager for the city. This is a contract mod to strip out the interiors of the 4 rail cars that we're already abating. This will allow them to be prepared internally if they want to be used for retail businesses or anything else of that nature. One correction, the funding for this is actually 100% for the mod is actually 100% for ARPA funds, not from the general fund.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from committee? One of the questions I have for you, Mr. Bellotti, is that my understanding is that these openings, the doorways for these train cars are not ADA, do not meet the ADA accommodation width for wheelchairs, for instance. And so I'm wondering, knowing that, if we were to prepare these for internal use, I'm concerned that they would not be ADA accessible and consequently we would not be able to utilize those for the intended purposes that we're thinking they might be intended for. I'm also concerned about the competition that we would be in competition with local downtown businesses, depending upon the type of business that these were used for. So can you address those 2 items, please?
Yeah, so the ADA, you are correct, as they're configured today, they would need to be modified to allow for ADA compliance, probably through the sidewall, not through the end wall of the train cars.
Would that not, I mean, that seems to fly in the face of historic preservation and what we're trying to do with that display down by the railroad station. If we were to modify the cars and to be cutting holes in the ends of them or in the sidewalls of them. Do you see any conflict with that?
It's really the only way to make them functional. If we want to use them as anything other than a static display, that would be a requirement. And throughout the country, when people have used these, that's what they've done.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee? Okay, any public comment? Councilman Laybourne.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And of course, I am not a member of the public. I am a council person that has a lot of responsibilities in regard to this project. And it's one that I'd like to understand better because of the variety of factors that have come into play as this project progressed. We had a original concept that's under modification. I'm not sure exactly where it's at today, but I hope to learn more about that. And this really speaks to a problem that I have with understanding projects of this nature. It is difficult to speak to the ultimate use, the current condition, the facts of the matter, when if I am only allowed to speak to this abatement, it really doesn't begin to give me the knowledge and understanding that I can communicate to constituents and downtown business people. And certainly when I heard the comment of retail business use of these cars, that is certainly a major concern of mine. I don't know that that was the intent, when we began this project. I think we need to be supporting downtown businesses, not competing with them. But, could I have a ruling, Madam Chairman, if I am speaking to the motion or not?
Well, I think that, Councilman Laybourne, if you will, contain your comments to the asbestos removal as it pertains to, the use of the train cars, the ultimate use of the train cars, or to the, ability to use them, yes, you could have that leeway.
I'm not sure I understand that, but I'm willing to try. I think a static display is quite a bit different from a purpose that has been identified here as placement in that space, city space in that parking lot that will require not only the entrance to that car to come from the side of the car, I guess, rather than the door, because those old doors weren't quite wide enough. Well, that leads to further expense in terms of that ramp. And I'd really like to be able to go out and take a look at how we've come with this project and have some understanding of how these 4 cars are to be used. I'm not entirely clear about that, and I've tried to follow that process. I hope we're gonna have some information here soon. But
Mr. Bellotti, could you arrange a tour for council members who would like to go out and see the progress of those cars?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, I'm still not clear about the arrangements that have been made, and maybe I can follow up with Mr. Bellotti and some of the other staff on this as to how those cars or the property that they're sitting on currently is, I understand, changed hands. And I'm not sure how we are with that. I'm just saying here,
There are
there's a lot of questions about this project.
And I think those
And
go,
as we proceed here, it's kind of like a wheel. And the wheel turns to the next expense, and the wheel turns to the next decision, and the wheel turns to the higher use. And certainly these matters are very important to the individuals that have committed very substantial amounts of money on 15th Street for the purpose of a attraction. So I appreciate your time here, but I hope I've made my point. Thank you.
thank you, Councilman Laybourne. I think there are a lot of questions still to be answered on this project, and today's topic is about the removal of the asbestos while they are working on these cars. So with that in mind, that is the limit of our vote today. Mr. Bellotti, did you have something to add?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Any questions from committee? Councilman Cook?
No, I was just preparing for a motion.
Okay. Any public comment? Okay, hearing or seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve in an amount not to exceed $91,846.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman White and a second from Councilman Cook. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, I move to amend by substitute dated October 30th, 2024 to revise the funding source to come from the American Rescue Plan Act State and Local Fiscal Recovery Account, ARPA funds.
Okay, we have an
Second.
amendment and a second. An amendment by Councilman White, a second by Councilman Cook. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, and now we're back to the main motion. All in favor of the main motion, say aye.
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 Okay, this item will move forward with a recommendation to approve at the next meeting of the council. Next item for the agenda, please.
Other items for the agenda: A, utility easement agreement between the city of Cheyenne and Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power Company doing business as Black Hills Energy to maintain, operate, remove, and replace utility infrastructure on land generally located at the 800 block of West 18th Street, revenue to the city.
Okay, staff report, please.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Charles Bloom, Planning Development Director. This is related to item 18L, which was the land exchange between the city of Cheyenne and Black Hills Energy. What this item is this is the granting of an easement on the property that we would acquire. This would be executed in conjunction with closing. What it would do is it would grant a 16-foot wide easement on the northerly side of the lot, which is a portion of a vacated alley, and 4 feet of the original blocks, because they have existing overhead utility lines in that location. So the easement exhibit is on the back. It shows the 16-foot easement there. This would only be recorded at the time of closing to account for their overhead utilities on the property. I would note that the property that we are exchanging for is encumbered by easements on 3 of the sides that are approximately the same size as well.
Hey, are there any questions from committee? I just want to make sure I understand. We're going to pay them $170,000 and then we're going to give them another 10 for an easement.
And Chair,
To have to be recorded. Yeah.
members of the council, it does say the 10 is the $10 and other consideration,
Right.
which is technically what they would pay us for that easement.
Oh, they're going to pay us the $10.
Correct. And that's just standard language that usually is in contract agreements in non-disclosure states for a real estate transaction.
That is so it's really only cost us $169,990. Okay. Is there any other questions from committee? Any public comment? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve an amount of $10.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Cook, a second from Councilman White. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Okay, this item will move forward with a recommendation to approve. Since we've completed all of our business and additional business on our agenda today, this meeting is now adjourned.